Thursday Night Football. The New York Jets are on the road taking on the Cleveland Browns. My two best bets are on the way. Let's recap how we did last week. Another wonderful week for us. A 8-3 week overall on a 14-4 run. We are 37-15 since Thanksgiving. I told you guys we were going to turn the season around, and we have done just that. But we're not satisfied. Let's keep it going this week. If you are new, like I said, my name's Austin. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, drop a like down below. Let's dive into today's picks. There is a free square live right now, only for new users on Sleeper. It's for Joe Flacco, the old QB that's returned, came out of retirement, has been scorching hot for the Browns. He's going to get you 1 yard. It's only for new users. Make sure you sign up using our code COS so you get that free square, or you can click the link at the top of the description. You also get a 100% deposit match up to your $100. They'll match your first deposit like $100 free if you want to take advantage of it. All the details down below. Get that Joe Flacco free square. You can throw in these two props I'm about to talk about in a second that I really like. But let's dive into the picks though today. I love New York Jets. I am a New York Jets fan. Kind of hope we lose this one, but we'll see how the game goes. I'm going to talk about a Brown first, then a New York Jet. Let's dive into the first pick. It's going to be a rush attempts prop. We've done really well in this category. Doing Jerome Ford of the Cleveland Browns over 12.5 rushing attempts, -108 on FanDuel. Every book was roughly around the same value here. I was close to taking Jerome Ford's over in rushing yards, which I will talk about in a second, but I think the attempts are a little bit safer here for Jerome Ford. Now, we have been burned by him before. No sugarcoating that. We've taken his rush attempts line, and I think he ended on the hook when we took him in. Look, that could happen here today, or maybe he just does not get the attempts. And we've talked about, the Browns the last few weeks, kind of been on some Cooper props and Njoku props, but last 4 weeks when Joe Flacco started starting, well, that kind of is weird, but last 4 weeks when Flacco's been under the center, he has thrown 44, 45, 44, and 42 passing attempts. And in turn, by throwing it so many times, that the Browns have now run the ball a ton, 23, 17, and 27 rushing attempts for the running backs. I don't care if Flacco's maybe getting a carry or two, maybe Dorian Thompson-Robinson comes in, whatever. Or maybe the running back or wide receivers get an attempt or two. I don't care about those. Those are just running back rush attempts. Now, obviously, if you look at the games and who they've played against, they've been in some negative game script games where they're throwing it a ton. And you've seen them face some really tough defenses of running the football. You've seen them face the Rams, the Jaguars, Bears, and Texans the last 4 weeks. Those teams are 14th, 10th, 3rd, and 2nd in rushing yards per attempt. So these are teams that you do not run against. You don't run on the Texans. You don't run on the Bears. Jags are really tough to run on as well. So in turn, the Browns have kind of come in with the game plan. They were going to throw the ball. Even in a positive game script where they're up by a ton against the Texans, still throwing the ball because that's how they feel they can move the ball a ton. And even in that game, Jerome Ford, 15 rush attempts, did not do well for 25 rushing yards with them. But this week's matchup against the Jets, a little bit different than what they've been facing because the Jets, the strength of their defense is their secondary. I mean, you got Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, you got a great secondary. What they actually have struggled on is running the football, is stopping the run. And we've seen the Jets allowed the 7th most rushing yards to running backs this season. So you've been able to run on them. The Jets have seen the 3rd most rushing attempts in the NFL, running back rush attempts, and the Jets allowed the 2nd most rushing attempts in the NFL at 31.2 per game. Now, you look at the Jets over the past few weeks, that number has kind of dipped down a little bit to like the 25 range, but they faced a couple teams. You saw them face the Texans a few weeks back. They won that game by 24. They weren't in a game script where they could run it. You saw them face the Dolphins. Obviously, we know how talented their passing attack is. And then last week against the Commanders, they had success running the football, just didn't run it a ton because they were down by 20 early in that game. Like within the first or second quarter, they were already down 20 points. So they kind of had to throw it a little bit more. We know the Commanders are a team that loves to throw it as well. So you look at it at the end of the day, really, I think they're going to give up about 28 rushing attempts in this game. And we've seen the Browns on the season. They averaged the 4th most rushing attempts in the NFL at 31 per game. The last 3 weeks, we've seen that kind of dip down to 25 per game, but they're still running it enough, and that's been with Flacco throwing it 44 times a game. I'd be very surprised if tonight Joe Flacco throws the ball 44 times. I mean, look, Amari Cooper is a little bit banged up, and I just think they're going to run the ball. That's the strength. You don't throw it against the Jets a whole lot because that's, you can force some turnovers here, and Joe Flacco's thrown some interceptions here and there. But I think this is a game they get back to doing what they do best, and that's running the football. Now, I'd argue, maybe they don't run the football as good as they've been passing it, given that, they don't have Nick Chubb, who's been out for the year since, week 2 or 3. But I think this is a game they run the ball and have a lot of success. I mean, like I said, I considered Ford's rushing yards, and if you look at Ford's rushing yards line, last week was 40 and a half. He stunk. He had 25 rushing yards, yet they bumped it up about 6 yards. Yeah, that don't make no sense. So I think this is a good game for Jerome Ford on the ground. He's going to be the first guy to get rushing yards and rush attempts. Hopefully he's successful with them before they go to the Kareem Hunts and Pierre Strongs of the world. Hopefully we see Jerome Ford be pretty good in the first few attempts. Probably see more and more carries. 15 last week. I don't necessarily know if he gets the more or maybe Kareem Hunt gets some, but I think this is a game they lean on the run a little bit more. So I really like Jerome Ford's over and rush attempts tonight at 12.5. Should be able to get it at 12.5. Really wouldn't want to take 13.5. That's a pretty big jump. Now, my second pick is going to be a New York Jet. And this one's going to take some convincing for you all out there. And I'm going to understand, if you don't like it, don't play it. I don't need people to play it and then come back and yelling at me because this guy's thinking up the joint, which certainly could happen because it's a low line. However, it is a ladder, and no, it's not the ladder you're thinking about. It's Jason Brownlee of the New York Jets, a receiving yards ladder. Let me explain it. Let me talk to you about why I like Brownlee. Then you can decide at the end of this video if you want to bet on Brownlee or not. Now, if you're just looking at how we're playing them, I'm putting 0.75 units. So let's say you're a $100 bettor. I'm suggesting to put $75 on his over 12.5 receiving yards at minus 110 on Bet365. But that's not where we're stopping. We're also putting another quarter of a unit, 0.25 or $25 for a $100 unit bettor on 25 plus receiving yards at plus 240. And then a 0.1 unit, not a big sprinkle, just a little sprinkle on 50 plus receiving yards at plus 1100 on Bet365. Now, before we even dive into why we like him, I do need to address the elephant in the room. FanDuel. They're cowards. They don't want to list the line for Brownlee. They got lines for a ton of other guys, ton of other bums. But you're not listing one for Brownlee. Do they have insider info? Do they know Brownlee's going to have a big game? Now, obviously, that's kind of a joke, although sometimes it is not a joke. They don't list lines for guys that they sometimes think has a good matchup and a good chance of soaring over. There's like, no, we're just not going to get taken behind the shed for that. Could that happen? Sure. But this is available on a bunch of other books, Bet365, DraftKings, Caesars, ESPN Bet. DraftKings, very similar odds to the 25 and 50 yards if you're going to go for the ladder route like I am. And if you're just talking about name games, we got Brownlee going off against the Browns. That is a great New York Times headline in tomorrow morning's paper. Now, obviously, that's kind of a joke. Let's talk about why I like Jason Brownlee, not Marquez Brownlee. I believe that was another wide receiver. I don't really know. Why do I like James Brownlee? And first off, who the heck is James Brownlee? If you've made it this far, you probably still might not even know who he is. Well, he is a rookie wide receiver for the New York Jets out of Southern Miss. He is 6'2", has about a 40-inch vertical, 200 pounds, and he's only had 28 receiving yards on the season. Now, your follow-up question is going to be, Austin, why the hell are we betting on a guy that doesn't even have 50 yards on the season? He only has 28. Why are we taking him up to 50 plus? Well, I'll give you a couple reasons why. Now, Brownlee has not played a lot this season. He is a rookie, and they really haven't played him a ton. And in fact, he's rested. He's not even played in 10 games. So, if you're looking at his numbers on the season, like these are pretty lackluster. However, Brownlee's playing a lot these days because the Jets have nothing to play for, have some injuries, and they're just trying to see what they have out of a rookie wide receiver. And thus, we saw last week, Brownlee, 82% of offensive snaps, the second most of the season. He ran 40 routes, 1 reception, 3 targets. So he did have a touchdown, so they targeted him there, and he got it in. Had one throw that was terrible that was intercepted and nearly pick 6 that he ended up going and chasing him down. And I don't remember the third target. I don't know. But in week 12, he had a similar game. He ran 44 routes, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 20 yards. Now, on Thursday, I can guarantee you one thing. As long as he doesn't get injured, Brownlee will be on the field. And I can't guarantee the ball goes his way. However, what I can guarantee is the Browns are a pretty good defense, and they are not stupid. They are one of the best defenses in the league. They play the most man coverage out of any other team. And the Browns, if they are going to use their brain cells, it is to double Garrett Wilson. The Jets have no other proven wide receivers. We're starting Gibson out there and Brownlee. I would tell Garrett Wilson and say, you know what? Beat us with anyone else. And we'll cover Breece Hall out of the backfield. Go throw it to literally anyone else. Tyler Conklin, fine. We'll live with that. But I think Brownlee's going to get plenty of opportunities in one-on-one coverage. And for a guy that is 6'2", has a 40-inch vertical, can make those contested catches. We saw him do it all of the preseason on Hard Knocks with Aaron Rodgers, obviously at QB. This is Trevor Siemian. Sure, you could put the critique there. But I think this is just a matchup for boy Brownlee. Get some targets, and it could take one reception where he just breaks off, gets a one-on-one coverage. They're just like, screw it. He's 6'3", throw it up, see if he can make a play. That is realistically what I think the Jets could be in for tonight. And I think this guy is very talented, showed a lot of promise in college, showed a lot of promise in the preseason, hasn't really gotten the opportunities so far this season. In the 2 games he's actually ran routes in, you saw them really struggle in both of the games. Garrett Wilson had a big day, Breece Hall had big days, but I feel like as a Jets fan, you normally see them have 2 different game plans. The first game plan, you throw it nonstop to Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, and that's all you do. No one else gets a catch. That's what they did last week. However, I feel like they go into the game plan the next week like, guys, that's not a recipe for success. We can't have 2 guys having 8, 10 receptions on the team. We need to spread it out. Brownlee's your guy. Look, I know it's crazy. We're betting on a guy with 28 receiving yards on the season. You don't have to take it if you don't want to. I'm just doing what I'm giving out what I like. We've been on a scorching run. This is maybe a little bit of a heat check, but I think Brownlee, I mean, the guy, if he plays 80% of the snaps, who's saying he can't get one catch for 15 yards, get his regular over, then we're playing with house money on his other ones. I certainly think that's possible. He could also have a 50-yard catch. I don't know. This guy has big play potential. He's really good with, I think, with the ball in his hands. Obviously hasn't had the ball in his hands a ton this season, but I just think he gets opportunities, plays a lot of snaps. That's all we're asking for. Now, obviously, you can take Garrett Wilson's over if you want to, much higher than this, and you can take other guys' overs, but I feel like the Jets are going to have to throw the ball in this game, given that I just don't see them have a ton of success on the ground. And I think Brownlee's a guy that's going to run, 30 to 40 routes, and at that point, we're just taking a risk that the guy gets a couple targets. Hopefully, he hauls them in, and if we get that one-on-one coverage, I feel like he's the one guy that you'd probably be more capable of throwing it up to than you are throwing it up to Gibson, who's like, Gibson who's like 6, or not 6 foot, he's like 5'9". Garrett Wilson, obviously 6 feet tall, but probably getting doubled. I just think Jason Brownlee gets the opportunities. Whatever. If we get wrecked, we get wrecked. It's 1.1 units. Not like we're risking 10 units on this play, although I feel like some people are probably going to think this is a 10-unit play. But I really like it. Jason Brownlee, he could lay an egg and we take an L, but 12.5 receiving yards just to be playing with house money. I'll take my chances at him getting at least one catch, maybe two. We've seen, I didn't even put the stat in there, but where was my stat? The Browns, in the last 6 weeks, have allowed 3 wide receivers or more to have at least 2 receptions. Look, if they're going to give up 3+ wide receivers to have 2 or more receptions, Brownlee's probably one of them. Garrett Wilson's the other. Gibson probably the last one. I think that Brownlee gets 2 receptions tonight. Let's see what he does with them. So, Jason Brownlee, we're your number 1 fans tonight. We're also rooting for Jerome Ford's rush attempts. Let's hopefully go 2-0 and dominate on this Thursday night football game. I remind you to sign up for Sleeper and use our code COS or the top link in the description. Get that Joe Flacco free square and get a match on your first deposit up to $100. You guys have a wonderful Thursday. Also, 2 notes, if you're this far into the video, give yourself a round of applause. I appreciate you. NBA Best Bets video, although you probably already watched that if you're this far in. Also, we have this new second channel video, P.O. Box opening. You guys sent us some really cool things. It is linked on the screen. Just went live on the second channel. Go show it some love. It's Austin signing out. Jason Brownlee, I love you. Hopefully, I'll love you even more tonight. See you guys in the next one. Peace.